It's a huge accomplishment for me. Obviously, going into the season, you have personal goals and then you have team goals as well. Obviously, the team goals are more important, but being a fifth-year player and being a leader on the team, I know my role and I know what I had to do. And being an offensive player, I had to try and produce as much as I could. And luckily, I was able to do that. That was, and that was a lot due to my teammates, my coaches. That we figured out the right game plans. We did the right stuff in training, and so obviously the individual awards obviously just a bonus, but the team success was ultimately what we were going for. Yeah, growing up in a small town, especially like Terrace BC, and playing a sport like soccer is tough, especially just because of the weather conditions and facilities. There's no turf up there, and so the soccer season only goes from about June to August, and so it's about 3-4 months a year, as opposed to here in the Lower Mainland where it can go from, you can pretty much play all year. That's the major drawback. At the same time, it was a really good community, and I had a really great sports community. So whether you were playing soccer or any other sport, you still had that opportunity to go out there and play and compete against the best teams in the province. Turning point in my soccer career, and that was the step that I needed to take. When I moved to Surrey, I didn't really know what to expect, but obviously I knew that the level of competition would be higher and that was the place I needed to be. Obviously with my uncle there, it was a little bit more convenient, just in terms of, it wouldn't have been possible without them, but I mean just in terms of the location of where they lived. The club that I ended up going to, Surrey United, was kind of close, and so when I got there, I walked over to a pitch that was close to our house, and kind of asked the coach to train, and luckily enough he let me train, watched me for a few practices, and I didn't really practice fully with them, and he kind of just wanted to see how I was, and then kind of gave me a chance to practice with them. And because I came in February in the later stages of the season, I wasn't allowed to play in any of the games, and so I just trained with them, and he let me train for a few months and then picked me for the squad next year's squad. And I didn't know at the time, but that was the best youth U16 team in the country, and so we ended up winning provincials and then nationals, and then that kind of set me up. And the coach there, Spiro Pegios, he kind of was able to mold me into a player that could play in those systems. In terms of playing in Terrace, I was a decent player individually, but I had no idea of how to actually play the game, how to pass, in terms of shape and movement off the ball, and he kind of stopped me and taught me the game a little bit better, and allowed me to kind of utilize my personal skills into a team environment. I think that's one thing that I needed to do to make myself the most effective. Not being the biggest guy ever, you have to be very mobile, because if you get stuck pinned with bigger defenders, that's what they want. But once you start moving around and trying to find those spaces, that's when it causes trouble for them, because then they have to make a decision of, do I follow him? Do I let someone else pick him up? And then it causes chaos. And if I can get those balls in those spaces and kind of turn, that's when I can use my quickness and my speed and then run at defenders. I just think this year I did things a little bit differently, and there were small changes that I looked at in my game and thought, how can I produce more? Just with being a senior player, I knew that I had to be that guy to produce the offensive stats. So they're just little things that kind of, buying into being optimistic and thinking the ball is going to get there. Like you said, like most of my goals were pretty close to the net, and so sometimes when you don't think the ball is going to come, you just kind of go stand there and the ball pops there, and next thing you know, oh, easy goal. So I think it's just being a little bit more optimistic this year, and kind of knowing that was my role that I had to play. It's just more of a mental thing, and just with that, the goals just kind of came. So.
Can you describe the difference between Cam Hundal of 5 years ago when you first came to the Vikes and this year, your graduating year?
Yeah, it's definitely, it was, I guess, a long time ago, but it doesn't really feel like it. My first year I came in, and that's always a good feeling for me coming into a new team, because I'm so used to doing it, just from moving away from home in the past. And I always have that motivation when I come into a new team. And so even though as a first year, I was hungry and driven my first year. And, with that, at the same time, I didn't know the league as well. And so I just kind of did what I thought I had to do, and it paid off in some ways, and in other ways I could have done things better. Now in my 5th year, knowing the league a lot better, over these past 4 years, I've developed more physically, I've become stronger and a lot smarter. So I've been able to add things to my game, especially in this league, because once you, over the years, you start to get marked tighter and tighter, and so you got to find ways to create more space for yourself. My first year I was kind of a very one-dimensional player, in terms of I'd be on the wing and I would just run at the guy no matter what whenever I got the ball. And fair enough, in my first year nobody really knew who I was, so it was a lot easier. Now being in my 5th year, I got to find other ways to get on the ball and to make space for myself, and so that's probably the biggest difference. And obviously the physical part of the game, especially in a league like the CIS where so many athletes, I knew I had to develop that as well, and that just kind of came over the years. There's some doors that are open, so I honestly don't know exactly what I'll be doing. Right now I'm just gonna focus on finishing school and obviously keep training with the Vikes as long as I can, and then maybe we'll explore some pro opportunities, maybe over here in Canada, in the US, or maybe overseas.
And how has Victoria and the Vikes helped you in development as a person and as a player?
Yeah, I think coming to UVic was one of the best decisions I ever made. I didn't know, honestly, what to really expect when I moved away from Vancouver. I visited this place, and I like the team, I like the coach, and I like the community in the city, so that was kind of what helped me make the decision. But then once I got here, the Vikes varsity program is definitely one of the best in Canada in terms of getting recognition, getting support, and I can say that for sure. Like, they help you out in ways that maybe other places don't as much, and and that's not just with soccer, that's with other things as well, like school and off the field kind of stuff, and they always kind of stay involved, whether in season or out of season, at school or not. They kind of stay in touch and definitely give you everything you need, and that shows with the building that they just built, Carsa. That shows the importance of athletics at UVic. And just for me as a person, you truly feel at home here, and you develop relationships that you'll have for the rest of your life, and I can always now call Victoria home.
They'll see one more coming. Here's Hundal again. One for the road, Cam? You bet. Make it 5. Cam Hundal gets his 10th goal on the season.